What if I told you that the life you're living right now is not the life you truly deserve? Ask yourself honestly, are you living as the richest version of yourself? Or have you been denying yourself your rightful abundance? You think you're poor because you lack money, but have you seen those with one eye, one arm, still manifesting their desires and claiming what is rightfully theirs? They aren't limited by their conditions, so why are you? Today I'll show you how to unlock the richest version of yourself. And finally, give yourself what you've always deserved. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. This is why assumption is not idle daydreaming. It is creation itself. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you move yourself mentally, spiritually, and vibrationally into a state that must externalize itself. The world has no choice but to reflect it, for the world is only consciousness pushed out. Let me tell you something very direct. If tonight you desire wealth, not for the sake of show or comparison, but true wealth, that freedom to express and to give and to live fully, then do not ask when it will come. Do not ask how it will come. Simply ask yourself, how would I feel if I were now the rich version of myself? Now pause. Do not rush through this. Sit in the quiet of your own being. Go past the noise of the outer senses and listen only to the language of feeling. Do not force it. Let it rise naturally. The quiet confidence, the ease, the dignity, the freedom. And when that feeling arrives, do not observe it from a distance. Step into it. Let it clothe you. Let it become your home. The mind will resist this at first. It will remind you of the bank balance. It will point to the bills on your desk. It will parade before you every so-called fact to contradict your assumption. But ignore it. That is merely the echo of your old state. And you are not there anymore. You have moved. You have assumed a new dwelling place in consciousness. You see, every event in your life is a manifestation of the state you are in. States are like rooms in a great mansion. You may occupy any room you please. One room may be poverty, another room wealth. One room may be limitation, the other freedom. But you must walk in. No one can bring you there. You enter by feeling, by assumption. And when I speak of assumption, I do not mean repeating words like a parrot. I do not mean convincing yourself through effort or will. I mean the simple, quiet acceptance that something is already so. The world calls it delusion, but this world is the illusion. The true reality is consciousness, and whatever you accept as true of yourself in consciousness becomes fact. So tonight, when you lie down to sleep, do not carry the burden of lack into your rest. Instead, drift into sleep as though you were already the rich version of yourself. Imagine the soft weight of fine clothing on your shoulders. Imagine the warmth of a home that reflects your wealth. Hear your loved one speaking to you with pride, with admiration. Feel the freedom to travel, to give generously, to create without fear. And feel it as real, not in the future, not as something you are hoping will happen, but as something that has already happened. Sleep in that state. Rest in that condition. For as you sow in the silence of your imagination, so shall you reap in the field of the visible. Many people attempt to manifest by focusing on the result alone. They look at pictures of wealth, say phrases about money, but within them is the persistent feeling of not having it, and so they perpetuate the very state they are trying to escape. You must go deeper. You must bypass thought and touch the feeling, for feeling is the secret key to all manifestation. You may ask, but how long must I assume this feeling? The answer is simple. Until it feels natural, until you walk through your day no longer hoping to be rich, but knowing that you are. And this is not arrogance. It is certainty. It is the quiet confidence of one who knows the law and trusts it You see, there is no power outside of your own consciousness. All causation is mental. Every condition is a mirror. So if you desire to change the mirror, change what is being projected. Change the film, the inner feeling, the state. That is where the change must begin. And assumption is how you make that change. And here's the beautiful part. Once assumed and persisted in, that state begins to attract all that belongs to it. Opportunities, people, conversations, ideas, all begin to move to support the state you now occupy. You may call it coincidence, but it is law. The law of consciousness. Now, the question remains, will you assume tonight the feeling of the wish fulfilled? Not as an experiment, not as a temporary fantasy, but as your new home. Will you dare to accept that your wealth, your abundance already exists, and that you need only step into it by feeling? Because if you will, if you truly dwell there, the world must conform, for creation is finished, and the rich version of you, the one full of power, ease, and beauty, is waiting not in the future, but within you now. Enter that state tonight, and remain there. To live in the end is to occupy the result before it appears, not to long for it, not to beg for it, not to struggle toward it, but to make it your dwelling place, here and now. It is to mentally and emotionally establish yourself at the destination, without requiring the journey to validate it. You live from the end, not toward it. Every desire begins as an image, but most people leave that image hanging in imagination, waiting for the world to confirm it. They say, I will believe it when I see it, and yet they never see it, because belief precedes sight. To live in the end is to flip that entire system. It is to declare inwardly it is already done, and to think, speak, walk, and feel from that conclusion. What would your life look like if your desire were fulfilled? That is the question. How would you rise in the morning? What would your first thought be? Would it be worry, fear, and striving? Or would it be gratitude, peace, and certainty? When you live in the end, those qualities naturally take root, not as effort, but as the expression of alignment. The inner man accepts the condition, and the outer world bends to match it. To truly understand this, one must break free from the tyranny of appearances. The senses will always reflect the past. That is their only function. They are the mirror, not the source. To live by the senses is to chain yourself to what has already been. To live by imagination is to enter the realm of what can be and claim it as already done. You are not called to fight the current reality. You are called to transcend it. If you are poor, do not dwell on poverty. Do not resist it, fear it, or despise it. Simply leave it. Not physically, but mentally. Withdraw your attention from it and begin to live from the state of wealth. Feel the end, not a distant hope, but a current fact. Dwell there with such conviction that all else begins to seem like a dream. There is a power in detachment, not from desire, but from conditions. When you detach from what is and attach to what you choose to be, you become the master of creation. You no longer react to life, you direct it. But it must begin within. It must begin with your assumption. Living in the end means the result is the starting point. If you wish to be wealthy, you must take wealth as your premise, not your goal. It is not a destination you reach. It is a state you enter. And that state becomes the cause of the outer effects. People often reverse this. They say, once the money comes, I will feel successful. Once the business grows, I will feel secure. But that is not how the law works. The feeling of success must come first. It is the seed. The tree grows in response. So ask yourself tonight, what would it feel like if I were already what I long to be? Do not rush through that question. Answer it with feeling. Answer it in silence. Let your imagination build the scene, the room, the sounds, the atmosphere. Let it become so vivid that it begins to overwrite the present facts. Because it will. The inner scene, when impressed with conviction, must objectify itself. You see, nothing is withheld from you except by your own disbelief. The end is already yours. The door stands open, but you must walk through it, and you do so by occupancy. Imagination is not fantasy, it is action. It is spiritual movement. When you imagine yourself at the end and accept it as real, you have stepped into the state. And the law responds to states, not words. You may still appear to the world as you were. The conditions may look unchanged, but something invisible has shifted, and that shift is everything. For the world you see is nothing more than crystallized imagination. And once the image has changed within, the form without must follow. Do not ask when. That is the question of doubt. The one who lives in the end no longer needs time. He sees the end as now. And that now, when persisted in, draws all events into harmony with itself. Not by effort, but by assumption. Not by force, but by faith. Living in the end requires faith in the unseen. Not blind belief, but the willingness to hold the end as true even when the middle has not yet arrived. It is the posture of certainty, and this certainty reshapes the world. Many try to live in the means. They focus on the process, the strategy, the step-by-step path. But the path will only appear when the end is accepted. It is not your job to orchestrate every detail. It is your job to dwell in the end so fully that the bridge of incidents builds itself. The how is not your concern. The what is already done. Your task is simply to remain faithful to that end, in thought, in feeling, in inner identity. So tonight, walk not in the shell of who you were. Walk in the richness of the fulfilled desire, not as a performance, but as a natural outflow of your new position. Speak from the end, think from the end, feel from the end, and you will find the world cannot help but show you the proof of what you already accepted in silence, because the end is not a destination, it is a state. And you may enter that state now. There is nothing preventing you but your own refusal to accept what is already true. The rich version of you does not need to be built, only assumed. And when assumed, believed, and occupied, it must express itself. Live in the end, and let the end live through you. To embody abundance is to become one with it, not in theory, but in the deep felt reality of your being. You do not speak of abundance as something to acquire, nor do you observe it as something outside of yourself. You wear it, breathe it, walk in it, you express it in silence and in movement. It becomes your identity, and from identity all things flow. The great illusion is separation, the belief that abundance exists apart from you, that it is in the hands of others, or that it must be earned through strain. But abundance, like every other quality of life, exists as a state of consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. To seek abundance outside yourself is to wander endlessly. But to become it, to embody it, is to bring it forth from within effortlessly, as a law. You are not trying to add wealth to yourself, you are revealing it, for you are already infinite in your nature. You lack nothing, it is only your state, your assumption, that defines what appears to be present or missing. Embodiment is not hoping, it is not asking, it is not striving, it is claiming and being. When one claims abundance from the feeling of already having it, the outer world conforms in its own appointed time. The question is not whether you are worthy of abundance. The question is, can you assume that you already are abundant right now? Can you walk into a room and feel that all things respond to the richness you carry within, not arrogance but assurance, not pride but presence? This is the tone of one who has embodied abundance. You see, it is not enough to visualize. You must feel. You must become the living, breathing embodiment of the wealth you desire. You must speak as though your words have power. You must move with grace, not because you are pretending, but because something within has shifted. You have accepted your abundance as natural, and it now expresses through you in all things. This inner richness has nothing to do with what the senses report. It is not about the balance in the bank, the items in the home, or the labels on your clothing. It is the deep knowing that everything you require is within. And when you live from this knowing persistently, the things you once desired begin to arrange themselves around you, not because you chased them, but because you drew them through the law of being. A man who is wealthy in consciousness does not need to prove it. His tone, his silence, his gaze all reveal it. The one who truly knows himself as abundant does not ask if or when. He walks through life as though it were already done. And it is this assumption, worn like a robe, that draws to him all that belongs to that state. So if you would see wealth in the world around you, begin by recognizing it within. Let abundance be the atmosphere of your inner conversations. Let it color your thoughts, inform your decisions, soften your voice. Let it become so real within that you cannot help but express it in everything you do, from the smallest gesture to the greatest action. There is no power in appearances. They are reflections only. Do not let the shadows tell you who you are. Let your inner conviction speak first. Feel rich before you have evidence. Speak success before you are applauded. Carry peace before the world gives you reason to rest. This is embodiment, not of theory, but of truth. What you are conscious of being, you become. What you feel yourself to be, you express. And what you persist in embodying, the world must mirror. This is not mysticism. This is the law. As within, so without. As above, so below. As you accept within yourself the state of abundance, the form of it must unfold around you. Not always immediately, but inevitably. Now many ask, but how do I feel abundant when my world tells me I am not? The answer is ignore the facts. Facts belong to the past. They are frozen reflections of former states. If you react to them, you stay in the loop. But if you refuse them and instead occupy a new inner reality, you break free. And when that new state is embodied, when it is felt, assumed, and persisted in, it becomes the only truth you recognize. So embody abundance. Speak of wealth as though it is familiar. Think of generosity as natural. Move with the ease of one who knows no lack. And this embodiment, though invisible at first, begins to shape your world. New channels open, old limitations dissolve. People and events come forward to support the state you have claimed. You are not here to earn abundance. You are here to express it. And expression begins within. Become it. Assume it. Feel it real. And the world, being only the outpicturing of your internal state, will declare in form what you have declared in feeling. It is not difficult. It is only unfamiliar. But once the feeling of abundance becomes familiar to you, once you feel at home in it, the struggle ends. Thence you do not chase, you attract. You do not beg, you become. And that becoming is the key. So stand today in the awareness that you are already that which you seek. Let that awareness grow roots within you. Let it settle and spread until it touches every part of your being. And from that rooted state, let the world respond. Because when you embody abundance, all that belongs to abundance must find you. The world you see around you is not moved by your wishes, your effort, or even your spoken affirmations, if they are not backed by inner reality. The law of life does not respond to outer appearances. It responds only to the inner man, that invisible, quiet self that dwells beneath your words and beyond your actions. This inner man is the true cause. He is not swayed by what the senses report. He moves silently. And what he assumes as true the law must fulfill. It is a profound error to believe that things change because of chance, effort, or outer manipulation. The only transformation that matters is inner transformation. The law responds not to what you do, but to what you are. And what you are is determined by what you are conscious of being. It is the inner assumption that carries power. It is the inner knowing that bends circumstances. That is the secret known by the few, yet available to all. Suppose tonight you desire to experience wealth, freedom, abundance. The outer man may begin to work harder, seek more opportunities, or speak positive words. But unless the inner man assumes the state of wealth, unless he feels it as natural, as already his, the law remains unmoved. The law is impersonal and perfect. It mirrors your inner conviction. It takes no notice of your pleas or striving. It sees only your state, and it always says yes, yes to whatever you embody within. This is why two people may do the same thing, say the same words, follow the same steps, and yet their results differ entirely. One has moved inwardly, the other has not. One has shifted his being, the other has only shifted his effort. And the law, ever just, gives to each according to his assumption. You are not dealing with the law of probability. You are dealing with the law of consciousness. The inner man is always expressing himself. He cannot hide and he cannot lie. You may try to speak over him, but the law will not be fooled. It hears only the silent voice of being, not your outer declarations, but your inner acceptance. So ask yourself tonight, what am I inwardly accepting as true of myself? Not what do I hope for or what do I want, but what do I believe to be so? That is the voice the law hears. That is the cause behind all that you experience. When a man changes his state of consciousness, he changes his entire world. Not because he made the world different by force, but because the world must reflect what he has accepted as real within. The inner man does not beg, he does not doubt, he does not look to the clock or the calendar. He knows. And this knowing, this assumption, is the force that shapes destiny. If your life seems stubborn, if your conditions seem stuck, it is not because the world is resisting you. It is because the inner man has not moved. You may have spoken new words, set new goals, or surrounded yourself with positive messages, but if within you remain identified with lack, fear, or limitation, the law must obey that identity. So go deeper, go beyond performance, go beneath appearances, become quiet, and listen to the tone of your own being. Does it carry the confidence of wealth, the ease of freedom, the joy of fulfillment? Or is it still echoing the old doubts, the old beliefs? The law does not operate by effort. It operates by reflection. The inner state is the cause, the outer world is the effect, and when you understand this fully, you stop trying to change the world and begin to change yourself, not by force, but by assumption. Do not concern yourself with how the new state will express. That is not your work. The law will arrange all things in perfect sequence. You need only remain faithful to the state you have chosen within. Persist in it, dwell in it, live from it, and it must become your experience. There is no partiality in this. The law does not favor one over another. It does not respond to personality, background, or status. It responds only to consciousness, to what you accept as true of yourself and persist in, regardless of appearances. You can test this tonight. Enter the silence of your own mind, close the door of the senses, and imagine, just for a moment, that you are now the person you desire to be. Not in some far future, but now feel it. Hear what you would hear. Walk as that one. Speak from that place. And let that inner movement be more real to you than anything the senses show. Then let that inner man go before you. Let him pave the way, for he is the only creative power in your life. What he assumes, the law brings forth. What he accepts, the world must display. This is not imagination in the shallow sense. This is creation. The inner man is always imagining, always forming, always projecting, and the law responds. Without fail, without delay, according to that projection. Change it, and the world changes. Persist in it, and it hardens into fact. You are not separate from the life you desire. You are one with it, but only when the inner man claims it as already his. That is the only requirement. The law waits not for your efforts, but for your assumption. And when that assumption becomes your new dwelling place, quiet, constant, and real, the law must obey. It has no choice, because it does not hear your words. It hears only the inner man.